Talking Taiwan is in its 13th year, and we are creating an oral record about Taiwan from a Taiwanese American perspective in English in a way that no one else is doing. Through a wide variety of in-depth interviews, we cover historically relevant topics, stories, issues, and politics related to Taiwan. In 2014, when the Sunflower Movement happened, Talking Taiwan was there, and we got the inside story of what happened the night that students broke into the Legislative Yuan over a trade pact with China.
But somehow I got messages from friends that they were going to do something and we were going to cooperate with the young crowds who are occupants in the Legislative Yuan now. I know their leaders' names, but I don't know them personally.
Okay.
I believe what they are doing is right, so I stayed. And our assignment was actually trying to divert police attention to the front gate.
Yeah, but because you guys created the diversion, then the students and protesters were able to break in through the back door, right?
Yeah, and it was successful.
In many cases, we are proud to have been the first to cover major news and stories related to Taiwan. We've interviewed Taiwanese American business leaders, Elena Liao, who got some of her first seed money for Day Company from TAP New York, Josh and Trig of Winson, who bonded over their love of Taiwanese food and their dream to start a Taiwanese American restaurant, and Lisa Chang Smith, who started Yunhai as an online shop before opening her Taiwanese general store location in Brooklyn. In 2017, we covered Taiwan's constitutional ruling that paved the way for same-sex marriage to be legalized in Taiwan. Then, when the spotlight turned to Taiwan during COVID, we covered the early steps that Taiwan took to contain the coronavirus outbreak, and we interviewed Richard Wong about how Taiwan was the only place in the world that was broadcasting professional sports. By the way, did you know that the inventor of the N95 mask technology, Dr. Peter Tsai, is from Taiwan? As we were dealing with the COVID pandemic, so much happened. There was the murder of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and increased incidences of Asian hate. We covered those topics too. We've also had the pleasure of interviewing some high-profile guests that were really generous with their time. Do you think it could be possible that someone like Elon Musk or someone could be the first to land humans on Mars?
I give less than 50-50 chance for a non-governmental entity would do that, because you see, if you do this purely just for your own joy, that's the other thing. But if it's a commercial entity, it has to have some motivation to do that. Mm-hmm. I just don't know there's enough commercial sort of motivation to do that. It has to come in from some government push. That's what I feel.
You never know what to expect. One of my interviews with a high-profile guest got canceled at the last minute, but I was able to revive it. When Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a huge surge of interest in civil defense in Taiwan. In 2023, when President Tsai Ing-wen visited New York, we did an episode on how she was met with PRC protesters. During that visit, President Tsai also met with Taiwanese American business owners that we've had on Talking Taiwan, namely Elena Liao of Day Company, Josh and Trig of Winston, and Lisa and Lillian of Yunhai. Speaking of presidents, we've covered Taiwan's presidential elections in 2020 and in 2024 when we traveled back to Taiwan to cover the election. While we were there, we interviewed 15 guests and produced 7 episodes about Taiwan's 2024 presidential election. And what did you think about the alert that people got on their phones a couple days ago about the so-called missile/satellite
Okay, so I have several views on that one. The first one is I understand that it was launched from a rocket platform. Okay, actually, let's step back for a minute. First, the most important thing to realize is that China's space program is under the auspices of their military. It is not like NASA or ESA. The second thing is that a lot of their rockets are actually the same. Many of them use the same exact platform as, their Dongfeng missiles. The DF missiles are basically, for the most part, the same, and they use those ICBMs as the platform for their Long March rockets. So in many instances, including this one, the only difference really is not really even a pointy head or not. They use the same exact variants with the conical heads, especially when launching satellites. And a lot of their ICBMs do not have the pointy heads. They literally have the same conical heads. Essentially, the main difference is a paint job on the outside and, of course, whether the payload is a warhead or a satellite.
We've brought Talking Taiwan to the Taiwanese American Conference East Coast in 2024, where we created an on-location studio and interviewed 12 guests. Last year, Talking Taiwan was at the Taiwanese American Conference West Coast, where we also interviewed several of the conference's speakers. We feel it's important for us to document the contributions and impact of Taiwanese Americans to Taiwan's democratization, especially since there's not much being taught in Taiwan about the blacklist and the efforts of overseas Taiwanese activists. We've interviewed Islinda, Dr. Linda Gale Arago, about the Kaohsiung incident, also known as the Formosa incident, the watershed moment in Taiwan's path to democratization.
So Shimingda, he drafted a statement calling for the end of martial law, the withdrawal.
Wow.
Yes, that's the big thing. The end of martial law, withdrawal of security units from schools, military, basically dismantling the security apparatus, freedom of speech, like 10 big demands. It's like the 10 Commandments. I think there were 10 items.
Wow.
And then he got all the candidates who would dare to sign on to it. That was Christmas Day, 1978. So right after the U.S. announced the breaking in relations. So it was tremendously fearful that everybody who signed was afraid this was the end of the rope. But one of the important figures in the South, he paid for printing huge numbers of it. And we were going to distribute this from South Taiwan to North Taiwan at the New Year's time. And he was arrested. That's January 20th, 1979, Yu Dongfa was arrested. And probably Shimingda would have been arrested too, but he wasn't home for 2 days. He was planning this together with Yu Dongfa. Again, a major attempt to stop the developing opposition.
Right.
And then that was the occasion for the famous Chao To March against political arrest, the first such protest since 1947.
Dr. Mark Chen spoke to us about the story behind the Taiwan Relations Act, which created a legal basis for the unofficial relations between the U.S. and Taiwan. This year, we're planning to bring Talking Taiwan back to the Taiwanese American Conference East Coast, and we're looking to raise $3,500 to cover our conference-related fees. This doesn't even cover the editing, research, and production required for each episode produced. $2,500 would cover the 25 to 30 hours it takes to produce just one episode. And if we produce 40 episodes per year, that works out to $100,000. Our work covers news and social movements in Taiwan, like the Bluebird movement, which led to the Great Recall. We spoke to some of the boots-on-the-ground activists and personally traveled back to Taiwan in July to cover the vote. In the past, we've covered China's incursions into Taiwan's ADIZ, and in February of this year, we were among the first to do an in-depth interview about China's latest gray zone tactics, which have included thousands of Chinese fishing boats, essentially the PRC's maritime militia, assembling in two long L-shaped formations longer than the length of Taiwan. We were months ahead of other media outlets in reporting on this. From bubble tea to migrant worker issues, Talking Taiwan exists to give a voice to Taiwanese and Taiwanese Americans. And we remain committed to producing content that matters about Taiwan.